Welcome back to another episode of Invest Guru. Today, we are diving into a company raising capital on WeFunder called CyberGlobal. They think they've found a brand new way to tackle the cybersecurity market. Let's jump in. So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with CyberGlobal's unique franchise idea, then look at the big problem in the market they're trying to fix. After that, we'll dive into how they actually make money, weigh the good versus the bad, and wrap up with the key questions you need to be asking. All right. First up, what is CyberGlobal's big idea? Well, what's so interesting is that they're trying to do something that's pretty unheard of in this industry, build the world's very first global cybersecurity franchise.
So the secret sauce is really this division of labor. Think about it. You have local franchise owners on the ground, shaking hands, building trust, and actually selling the services. But all the really complex technical stuff, the 24/7 threat monitoring, the ethical hacking, all that heavy lifting, that gets handled by one central global headquarters.
Now, why would they structure it this way? Well, it's designed to solve a huge headache in the market, especially for small and medium-sized businesses.
You see, right now, if you're a smaller business, you're basically stuck between a rock and a hard place. You can hire one of these giant enterprise security firms. They've got amazing skills, for sure, but they cost a fortune and they don't know you from Adam. Or you can stick with your local IT guy, who you trust, but who probably isn't equipped to fight off a serious modern cyber attack at 3 a.m.
And this right here, this nails the fundamental conflict. Security absolutely requires world-class, global-level technology, but the decision to buy it, that's almost always based on a local, trusting relationship. CyberGlobal is betting their whole company on the idea that they can be the bridge between those two worlds.
Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts. How does this franchise machine actually work? And, the most important part, how does it make money? CyberGlobal's headquarters actually gets paid in 3 different ways. First, they charge a big upfront fee just to join the network. Second, they get a slice of every single dollar a franchisee makes forever. And third, they make a nice profit margin for actually doing the cybersecurity work that the local teams sell.
To make this real, let's just follow the money on a typical deal. Let's say a local franchisee sells a $10,000 project to a client.
Okay, so the customer pays the franchisee that full 10 grand. The franchisee then turns around and pays headquarters about $3,750 to actually perform the service. Then, on top of that, they pay another $500 or $600 back to HQ as a royalty. Everything that's left over is the franchisee's gross profit.
And this chart just breaks it down perfectly. You can see the franchisee gets to keep the biggest piece of the pie. That's what keeps them motivated to sell. But the real genius for CyberGlobal HQ is that they get paid twice on every deal, once for their work and again as a royalty. If they can scale this, that is a really powerful economic engine.
Okay, so we get the model. Now let's talk about the exciting part, the bull case. Why could this thing be a massive success? Well, the arguments for it are pretty strong. They're solving a real, nagging problem for businesses. Plus, the demand for what they do is never going away. Cybersecurity is not an optional expense these days. And if this network gets big enough, it could become incredibly valuable and a prime target for a bigger company to just buy them out. And hey, this isn't just some idea on a napkin. Take a look at these numbers. They've already signed up 22 franchisees, pulled in over $1.7 million in fees, and they're on pace to do $3.7 million in revenue this year. What's kind of wild is that they're already doing all this with a 15% profit margin, which is pretty amazing for a company growing this fast.
And here it is. This is the number that gets investors really excited. If, and yeah, it's a huge if, but if CyberGlobal can hit their super ambitious growth targets, they're projecting that the first investors in could see a return of almost 20 times their money.
Okay, but let's take a deep breath. No investment is a sure thing. So now we have to flip the coin and look at the bear case. And for CyberGlobal, it really all comes down to one big thing: execution risk.
I mean, that potential 20x return sounds incredible, right? But it completely depends on them pulling off a really, really aggressive growth plan over the next 5+ years without any major stumbles.
This quote from the source analysis just hits the nail on the head. It's the central question. Is this really a scalable system like a McDonald's where every burger is the same, or is it just a bunch of complex consulting projects that are going to be a nightmare to standardize across the world?
And the risks here are very real. First, this kind of high-end service is just notoriously hard to turn into a cookie-cutter franchise. They're also up against some huge, well-funded competitors, and you have to wonder if the average franchisee can actually make enough money to be successful. Managing 200 territories is a monster of an operational challenge. It gets exponentially harder, not easier, as you grow.
So what it all boils down to is this.
You're weighing a really clever, innovative business model against some pretty significant risks in making it all happen. And that brings us to the key questions you should be asking yourself.
The success of this entire company lives and dies with the success of its franchisees. So the number one question is, are they actually making the money CyberGlobal says they can? Because if the franchisees aren't winning, nobody's winning.
And right up there with franchisee success is quality control. A network like this is only as strong as its weakest link. One bad experience somewhere in the world could tarnish the whole brand. You have to know how they're keeping standards high and, just as important, how many people are failing and leaving the network.
And that all leads us back to this final massive question. When you strip everything else away, what do you believe this company is at its core? Is it a true, scalable franchise, or is it a services business in disguise? Your answer to that single question will probably tell you everything you need to know.